Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Money Goddess podcast. I'm so excited. We have Lydia Killion in the building. Hello, hello, welcome.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. I am so excited to dive in and just give all the details, just the backstory about Lydia. So I met Lydia online when I first started learning about the law of attraction. And I have been working with Lydia since 2017. So it's been a long time.
Amazing.
I know, right? And just getting to see your progression as a coach and how you have been able to help so many people has been incredible. So just more about Lid. She helps people to change their beliefs and how they think about themselves to live the life that they want to live. She is huge on self-concept. She has a 2-week self-concept challenge, and I will share that when you work on your self-concept, it changes everything. And she has so many great results. She's a content creator. And she has her famous phrase, get an effing life, babe. And she is on a mission to help us all live our best, happiest, successful, and funniest lives. Happy to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. It made me blush while you were reading that out. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's really good to probably hear the good things about yourself. You're
Yeah,
like, yeah,
I mean,
that is
we
me.
worked together a long time ago. So that was, well, we started working together a long time ago. So it's just
Mhm.
crazy the progression. Love it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have already told you, and I'll share this with the world, Lydia helped me with my faith. I think that's the biggest thing, and belief in the impossible, because the world itself will not tell you to believe in crazy, as Lydia would say, batshit things. But I mean, that is where I feel like I was able to really harness in, and even if things don't look good on the 3D reality, Lyd helped me so much to be able to see the impossible can happen.
Oh, I love that. And you did manifest it. Oh, I love it. We'll get into that, I'm sure, but you did manifest so many things. And you were one of those students that just got on with it. Like you just got
Yeah.
coached and you just got on with it. I didn't need to hold your hand. Like you just went and you did it and you manifested tenfold whatever you were trying to manifest.
Yes. And I'm so thankful. And I'm living the manifestation right
Amazing.
now. So it is beautiful. I love it. Let's go ahead and get in. I just want, if you don't mind, just kind of telling us about yourself, how you got into the coaching industry. What has your journey been like? Just for those who don't know you, so they can be able to kind of see you in this different light being on the platform.
Yeah, of course. So I got into the coaching industry 8 years ago, 2016. Yeah, 8 years ago, I was like, this is it now or never. I want to be a coach. And obviously, since then, it's progressed a lot. Things change, pandemic happened. So now I kind of label myself as more of a content creator for self-concept and manifestation. I've got the podcast, I've got so many different things that are going on outside of the one-on-one coaching kind of style that I used to have. But basically, I fell in love with law of attraction when I was 16. But I always say 16, I think I was 15, but it was just for my 16th birthday. And my grandma had just passed away, and my auntie came over from Ireland and she brought us all the book, The Secret. She came over with 7 copies. It was like this. And I read that book and my life changed forever. Like forever.
Mhm.
I was just indebted to her from that point onwards because I had this book that was like, you can choose how you think, you can manifest this life. And I was like, wow. So I started practicing it, and I remember I took it into school, showed all the girls, and they just laughed at me. Now they'll ask me how to manifest, but back then
I'm
they laughed.
sure they do.
Yeah, they did. Um, but back then they just laughed at me. So I manifested my first job, first car, all those kind of things. And I just knew I wanted to do what the teachers in that book were doing. I was like, I just need to help everybody do this and
Yeah.
show them that this is how you live life. And so, I thought I'd have to wait till I was like 50 odd and in a suit in an office for anyone to listen to me. And in my early 20s, I decided to just go for it and start becoming a coach. So, yeah, that was 2016. Now we're 2024, and I feel like I'm at that point in the business where I'm just obsessed with it. I love it, and I love doing what I do and teaching you all how to manifest easily, simply, and live your most confident lives as well.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And if you also don't mind sharing, like, because I did see this like on your I believe it was your YouTube shorts, like how you were maybe at during the pandemic, like the way things were for you and how you like manifested all these amazing things, because I don't want people to just like see the success that everyone has. Like I want them to be like real and raw and know that like shit happens, right? We
Yeah.
go through things, but like I love your story of how you used your self concept to get to where you wanted to be. So can you like take us back to like those moments and like progress us forward to where you are today?
Yeah, of course. So when the pandemic happened, I am the biggest social butterfly. I live for my friends and my social life and my family. I have a very active life, and the pandemic just obviously took that away from me. It
Mm.
also took I've worked since I was 13. I started working for £2.30 an hour at 13 years old, which would be even less
Wow.
in dollars. I know. So like I have just always worked. It's my outlet, it's my creative force. And then to not have like anything, because nobody wanted, I mean, I had an eyelash extension business at the time as well. Nobody wanted, well, they couldn't have lashes. Nobody wanted coaching because they needed it, but they were too scared to spend the money because obviously global pandemic, world shutting
Right.
down. And what that did to my mindset was, and Tony Robbins talks about this a lot as well, when you haven't got hope and you don't know what the end goal is, you don't know when the light at the end of the tunnel is, that is a very scary place to be in. So I found myself becoming almost like a non-believer. It was like I was going, which had never happened to me before. So I found myself just going into this place of like, nothing good's ever going to happen again. I'm never going to get
Mm.
over this. Because the business income streams had stopped, I had to go on universal credit, which is government handouts basically in the UK. If you had a job, you got something called furlough, which was paid every single month as if your employer. They basically copied what the employers do. If you were self-employed, you got benefits or you got like government payouts, but you'd have to wait like 3 months for a certain amount of your usual salary that you'd pay yourself to come
Yeah.
through. So it was, I mean, you get a little bit of government handout and it would just be 3 months until you saw something big again. And that is quite a scary place to be in this day and age where
Right.
we've all got rent to pay, bills, car payments, everything. So I was just like, I was physically, emotionally spent. And then team that up with, we had come out of the pandemic, things are starting to get back to normal.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I want to start this agency. I want to rebrand. I want to come back to coaching with a different angle. I fell in love with TikTok over the course of the pandemic, like the majority of the world, dancing at home to TikToks to
Yeah.
get through the global disease. And then my best friend died. So not only was I going through bringing myself back to a better self-concept, but I was also grieving as well.
Right.
6 months into my grief journey, again, Tony Robbins, King Tony always, but he said something in regards to grief can leave a hole and you can either fill it with love or you can fill it with pain. And I was like, okay, I'm going to use this moment to use my grief to kind of fuel the business and to channel it and to change. And I knew I had to change my self-concept in order to create the business and the life I wanted past that point. So those are, I mean, I kind of looking back, I'm grateful for the experiences for where they led me. Obviously, I would never wish to go through grief or anything like that, but it's turned me into a stronger person. And I think the driving force is different now than it was 8 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's so ingrained in me now that this is a have to. No, it's not a, oh, let me just like F around and see what happens with this. It's like, no, this is my life. I'm making this happen. This is where it's going. And us, again, with the pandemic, they took away so much control from us. And now we've got it back. I'm never letting it go again.
Yeah.
So again, it's just that I have to do this. I have to mentality. I don't think I had that as much before the pandemic.
Mm. Would you say that was like the biggest piece of your self-concept that shifted? Like, I'm making this happen. I am not going to like see anything else.
Yeah, I mean, you've known me for 7 years now. We are so ambitious. We're naturally ambitious. We don't really have to, and I'm not going to say this in like a really patronizing way because it might sound different if you're listening to this and you've never heard me speak before, but we don't really have to try to be ambitious. We are just natural. I mean, I remember me and you talking about how we were going to manifest Cardi B being friends with us, and we really
Yes,
believe
and that's still gonna happen.
we believe that now. Like, so ambition and drive and hard work, they came natural to me before the pandemic anyway.
Yeah,
So starting a business, being entrepreneurial, that wasn't something that was hard for me. But I mean, I kind of knew I was going to be successful. I've always had that mindset. It was never going to be another way for me. But then having it taken away in the pandemic,
yeah,
not being able to have that creative outlet or that entrepreneurial outlet as much, even though I did start a business in the pandemic, I was making like resin coasters and photo frames and all sorts because you have to be creative in some way.
right.
Um, but it gave me that drive to like, no, I am making this happen. Like
Yeah.
that it's just that stamp, like dig your heels in. I am having this life. There's no other option.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that that's the key. Like, if you don't make it an option and you say, like, this is exactly what I am going to have, nothing can stop this. I think that is the foundation and the key of like manifesting something, but also using it through your self-concept. So where would you say that you changed maybe the most from like being, in that pandemic, grief state to today? Like, where would you say you saw the most changes in your self concept?
I'd say there's two moments. So the first one was when I was let outside of the country for the first time. No shocks, I went to Ibiza. This was June 2022, no, July 2022. And I met a lovely, I'd already started thinking, I think I'd started putting the wheels in motion for coming back to coaching and this relaunch and,
Yeah.
rebranding, doing it on TikTok, all of those kind of things. But I was sat in the pool of a hotel called the Beach Star, fabulous place, disco balls, DJ, gorgeous. And this is a daytime thing. This is like a pool thing. And I met a woman called Lynn, and she wasn't 60 then. She must have been 58 or 59. Because I see them every year since now in Ibiza. We had
Oh,
a meeting
yay.
up. She was with her husband Phil, and she was going upstairs taking client calls and coming downstairs and coming upstairs, coming downstairs. And I was like, that's what I used to do when I lived here because I used to live in Ibiza 2018. And I was like, if Lynn can do it, I can do it. And it just sparked this like, yeah,
Mm,
this is I'm living here next year. And it was that decision, like, I'm living here next year. I'm moving back here, laptop lifestyle again. Okay, everything. And then that was my light. That was probably the first light in the end of the tunnel
yeah.
from pandemic and my best friend Taylor passing away. And so that was like a really pivotal moment. And so everything was geared towards how am I getting to Ibiza next year? How am I building this business? How am I making this happen? So then my self-concept routine became wrapped around that. And then the second thing was March 2023. Ibiza's only 3 months away, or 3 months away, two
Hmm.
months away. And I'm like, oh, I'm nearly there, but things need to speed up. Like I've
Right,
got
right.
I think I had 30,000 followers on TikTok. The money was coming into the business. It started to like come in. I was like, I mean, it's good. I'm grateful, but it needs to speed
Pick
up
up.
because
Yeah.
I've booked my flight. Like, I have a combination. I've booked my flight. Everything. I've put all my ducks in alignment, ducks in a row. This needs to happen now. And I was like, okay, let me set myself this 2 week self-concept challenge. I know how to do this. I know what to do. I know what to apply. And I'm going to change my mindset in the next 2 weeks. I'm not going to let it take 2 months. I'm not going to let it take 2 years. It's happening now because I'm
Yeah.
moving to Ireland in 2 months. And then that was massive self-concept change for me as well, because it just completely shifted. And within 3 months, I 10x the business income.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Like, that is a huge transformation. And another thing too with that transformation that you talk about a lot on TikTok, what would you say, did you need to have more nervous system regulation to handle that transformation? Or like what was it? Because I know for me, like I remember when I started manifesting like all these amazing things, my body was like, this was years ago. My body was like, like,
Yeah.
how was it for you now that like you matured in your manifestation and you go through this transformation with your self-concept? Like what was it like?
So I'm going to bring you back to 2017 because that's when I first started, like in this business anyway, like hitting like really cool money ones. But that was also, I had a great relationship at the time. My body had got to a great place, friendship's great. That sent me into almost like I used to say it was like a 6 month depression because I was so terrified of it going away. I was in fight and flight constantly. Looking back, my nervous system was out of whack. I probably could
Yeah.
have been able to stabilize it with a few EFT sessions, but I lost
Right.
it. And because I'd lost it, then it's harder to bring it back. And it's just this cycle you go on of like manifesting it, but not working on self-concept. So you're constantly manifesting, manifesting, manifesting. Whereas now, if you just work on the beliefs, you don't even have to really think about manifesting it that much, which sounds really crazy because you have to sit there visualizing the money month or the goal. It just comes in so easily when you tie it up with nervous system regulation because your body doesn't like, so your brain doesn't like change. It loves what
Mhm.
is familiar, whether that familiar is broke, heartbroken, overweight, underweight. It knows what it knows. It wants to stay there. So then when we're pairing that up with, okay, I'm going to change my whole life. I'm going to 10x my income. I'm
Yeah.
going to lose 3 stone, whatever it might be to anybody else. But when you are doing a drastic mindset change, your brain's going to be firing on all cylinders like, no, 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 warning, warning.
Yeah.
But the EFT and the regulating your nervous system just allows you to self-soothe your mind, allows you to calm it down, relax your nervous system. So I believe we manifest faster because of that, because your brain isn't fighting you on it. So you've not got as much resistance to these desires because your body feels safe to let them in.
Right, right. And I love the fact that you are calling out and saying, like, no, my brain goes crazy too. Because I
Mhm.
think a lot of people feel like that's
My brain's
that's
terrible.
okay. So by
This
the
is
way,
why I do what I do.
yes, I name when my brain starts doing things, I her name is Sheila. Like that's Sheila.
Mine's
That's the yeah.
Patricia.
What?
Mine's Patricia, yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. We
Yes.
really named them. I mean, but it helps because I'm like, okay, this is Sheila. Sheila is scared.
Mhm.
She doesn't know what to do. So let's get her to where she needs to be. And
Exactly.
yes, and I remember so I did not start truly EFT tapping until January of this year. When I tell you, my life has forever changed. I am so serious because I remember in 2022 when we worked together, you were like, "Oh, Jasmine, try EFT." I'm like, "That's not my thing," because I tried it before and it didn't really stick.
It feels weird. You feel weird the first couple of times you do it. You're just like, the fuck? What am I
Yeah, what's
doing?
going on here? But
Yeah.
Leah, I swear to you, like my diet changed. Like I wasn't having sugar cravings. Remember, I think I sent you that infographic or you shared it on TikTok. Depression and anxiety down. When it came to what is the other thing? Fight or flight mode, like I'm not there. Like all those things. And this is like my biggest season. I mean, I freaking manifested a radio show, just not even trying to. And it just happened. And here we are on it now. But I know it has a lot to do with me being able to handle it, with my nervous system. Like it doesn't bother me. It feels normal.
Definitely. You're creating that space for it because an out of whack nervous system, it can't handle anymore. And like I said earlier, we're ambitious. We got a lot going on. I mean, you are so busy. You're like, I'm a little bit better at having a bit more of a simple life. You are so go, go, go all the time. If your nervous system's already out of whack with that and you try and manifest more in it, internally, subconsciously, you're going to be thinking, I can't cope with this
Yeah,
too
I can't
much. And so
handle
if
it.
your subconscious mind doesn't want it, it's not going to let it in. So the more calm you can make your nervous system, you're just creating that space. And also EFT is amazing for working through the limiting beliefs that we have. So
Right.
there's two kinds of EFT that I kind of lean towards, and that's just pure affirmations. And then it's the one where you kind of identify the negative statements first. You shine a light on your limiting beliefs first, and then you talk yourself out of it as the session goes on. They are so powerful. I'm
Mhm.
constantly yawning or crying. I have
Yeah.
clients, I have clients that burp. I'm glad I don't do that, even though there's nothing wrong with it. But for me, it's yawning, and just knowing all that release is coming out is so powerful.
Absolutely, because our emotions are trapped in our body. Like, if you notice where the tension is, like for me, I used to have a lot of tension in my shoulders or like lower back, but I've been doing EFT, what, this is 8 months now. And like, I notice I don't have those issues as much because the emotions are coming out when you yawn or burp or cry, it's all coming out. And there's one particular EFT tapping that I love from you. Well, it's probably a lot of them, but one of them that I remember is the forgiveness one. Can you kind of like talk
Yeah.
about that a little bit more in terms of like manifestation? Because I don't think that it is expressed enough in like the coaching industry and how important that is.
So with forgiveness, I mean, I lean towards more law of assumption teachings now, and the law of assumption community is very Neville Goddard, affirmations, mindset work kind of thing. But I'm still a law of attraction girly. I always will be. And
Yeah.
a lot of law of attraction teachers will teach you to do forgiveness work. So I think I first seen it in, I did. It was Denise Duffield Thomas's book, Lucky Bitch, or Get
Hmm.
Rich Bitch. She's got two. They're amazing books. And she made me do a forgiveness list. And I was like, I don't want to do that. I
Yeah.
don't forgiving people. Like you hold on to that resentment so much and you feel justified in it. And you are, because these people hurt you or situations hurt you. But holding on to it is only us choosing to hold on to those feelings at a certain point. There's, your emotional response at the time, completely valid. That's going to happen. 3 years later, we might probably need to start shifting through it, because it's the gift we give ourselves. It's not
Right.
about forgiving somebody else and saying, okay, you had every right to do that, or I'm condoning it, or do it again. Like we're
No.
just giving ourselves that free space. I think there's a quote which says, holding on to anger and resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. And it's so true. So when we do forgiveness work, and I love doing forgiveness EFTs, because I feel like when I'm moving through an action and doing it, I'm not as focused on the icky emotion that I'm trying to forgive, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Some people love to do forgiveness letters, or, some clients even write on balloons and let it go. Whatever kind of visual you want, whatever letting go process you want is right for you, that's fine. But it is a massive way to let go of resistance, because if you, for example, you're struggling to forgive a situation where you didn't feel worthy, or somebody was making you feel like you weren't good enough, and you're still holding on to that, it's going to be harder. No, it's not completely impossible, but it's going to be
Yeah.
harder for you to create a self-concept of I'm worthy, I'm good enough, if you're still leaning into that energy of that
Hmm.
situation. So when you can forgive that situation, you don't have to forgive the person if you don't want to, but you can say, do you know what, I forgive what this did to me, I'm going to learn
Yeah.
something from. What can I take from this? How has it made me stronger?
Absolutely. And this leads me into now the next section where I talk about where I had to apply that and
Yay.
my broken, at the time, broken engagement to like now husband. And
Oh,
I
this is one of my favorite manifestations ever.
don't. And it's crazy because it still is mine. Like, now that we're like past all that, we have a kid, responsibilities. I always like go back to that. It's like the anchor that
Yeah.
lets me know anything is possible. And
Anything. I've
I
got
want to,
goosebumps. I remember I've literally got the message, your success message, like in my mind now. Because I cried
yeah,
when I read it.
I know. And like I'm starting to feel teary-eyed like talking about it because you knew what that was like, for me. Like you knew because I shared. So at the time, we were broken up and I said I forgave him, but I don't think that I really forgave him during that time. And thankfully, like it wasn't anything about like, negative, like, I don't condone the cheating or anything like that. It wasn't that. It was just that it wasn't our time,
Hmm.
to be together because there were things that needed to be worked on. And
Yeah.
so, Lydia, you shared like things that I could do in terms of manifesting him back into my life. And I know you do have like a specific person course or workshop that you have
Yes.
still? Yeah. So
Yeah.
can you
I
kind of
won't
like,
take
I
my
guess,
son's area.
yeah. Can you kind of like run that back, like in terms of what you recommended, like for me at that time, and like I'll also like share, what happened a little bit later. But I just kind of want to get people to understand that this is a process, and you have to go through it. Like it's easier than we think, I would say. But I just want to hear like your perspective, looking back then to like now.
So looking back then, I think I would give you the same advice I'd give you today, but I don't think I dressed it up in the self-concept speak back
Yeah.
then. But it was like you have to believe in you. You have to feel like you're gorgeous. You have to feel like, if not me, then who? You have to feel like you're the prize. You have to feel like, of course, he's going to come running back. Like you have to wrap yourself up in that self-concept first. Plus, with the forgiveness work, because you're not manifesting back a new situation. Sorry, you're not manifesting back the old situation. That situation did not work. That's why it broke down. You're
Hmm.
manifesting a new situation, which is why the forgiveness work is so important. Because if you're trying to manifest in a new version of this person, or even the old version, but if you're trying to manifest in this person, but you're holding resentment towards them, and you're like, why would your brain want to manifest that in? It's not going to
Yeah.
want to. So you have to do the forgiveness work, and you have to wipe that slate clean in order to manifest the relationship you want with that person, or even if you were starting a whole new relationship with somebody else, because
Right.
you're bringing all that. I'm not going to say baggage. I don't think baggage is a nice word to put on our emotional distress, whatever we
Yeah.
suffered. But all of those experiences and the meanings you have taken from them, we have to work to change those meanings, or at least change our perspective on what happened, or work to create a self-concept that is so solid that, number one, we know our worth. We're not going to settle for breadcrumbs. So we're not manifesting somebody back so they can text us at 2 a.m. and, booty call us. We're not doing that. Like, we are manifesting a self-concept where we believe we're the prize, and that any person would be stupid to leave us. And when you stand in that power, not only will you have them running back, but you'll have everybody around you just reflecting that. Not even on a romantic level, people will just
Right.
that self-respect back to you, that self-concept, that self-worth back to you, because that is the blueprint. Your self-concept is the blueprint for how others are going to treat you, for what you manifest, for the type of actions you take in your life. It's just so important. So to anybody who is wanting to manifest like their SP or a new person, like SP is like the internet term for it, but
Yeah.
manifest, somebody back into their life, it has to start with self-concept. In fact, I always say, I don't know if I would have said it to you back then. However, you have a mindset where I would never worry about you doing visualizations about your ex, because like you had that solid belief. I think we just had to like fine tune how we was manifesting him in. But with clients now, I'm like, you have to work on that self-concept first,
Mhm.
because if not, you're going to manifest him in, but you've got the same self-concept, it's going to go. Same
Yeah.
shit's gonna happen. Same
Hmm.
story's gonna happen. What's the point in doing that? It's way harder to keep doing that than it is to just work solid. I always say work solidly on it for 2 months before you even do any technique regarding them. Like
Yeah.
you have to change how you see yourself and how you see yourself in regards to relationships, and also how you see love in general.
Absolutely. And I agree with everything you said, because even though you knew that I had a strong self-concept, I still manifested him back before I
Yeah,
really, really changed, and he was not who I wanted. Like, and that
exactly.
happened
That's
like
it.
two times.
Because the
And I was
forgiveness
like,
hadn't fully forgived yet.
yeah, and that's probably what it was. It was the forgiveness that I still needed to work on. And it was also like within myself. And I didn't realize, like, when it comes to relationships, especially if you had like issues, like there was a lot of trauma within, and then you have your old childhood stuff that you're
Yeah.
working on. It's like all of these different things. But once I truly, truly like took the time to work on myself, when he did come back in, it was like night and day.
Yeah.
And he was literally, and he still is, a reflection of me. Truly, like he reflects who I am. I mean, even in our marriage now, like whenever we maybe like have an issue, I'm like, oh, it's time for me to upgrade. It's time
Yeah.
for me. And I'm telling you, like, for an example of that, like he just does everything on his own. He makes plans. He's like this amazing person, but it all starts with me.
Yeah. And I want to just zone in on something you said. You said when you took the time, this is one thing about you, you had the time. You weren't worried about the time. And a lot of people, when they start that journey, they are so desperate. They want it back now. And working on self-concept allows you to trust that it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And EFT as well allows you to calm that nervous system down. That's telling you, again, your inner child saying, oh my God, but they're going to go with someone else. You never had that. You were like, do you know what? I don't care if it takes 3 months, 3 years, it's happening.
Yeah.
You locked that faith in. And so you dropped the time crunch, like the imaginary time crunch that so many people put on, which just creates pressure, and
It
it creates
does.
you to do stupid shit like message them and see, not message them and see how they are. That sounded really mean. But like say if they've been disrespecting you, then like you constantly reaching out,
Yeah.
you are teaching them how to treat you and how to you're actually teaching them how to disrespect you a lot of the time. So you never had that. You were like, you know what? I'm
Thankfully.
working on me,
Yeah.
and it's going to take however long it takes. But this again, it's like how I was saying earlier, like there's no other option. Like
Right.
this is how it's going to work out. Whatever happens in the bridge of incidents is fine. But I know and I trust that this is going to work out for me. And so I think people need to take a leave in every life situation from that, because that was what was so magical about you. You just did not care about the time.
No, and it's beautiful when you don't care about the time, because what's crazy is when we first started dating, we actually said we were going to get married at 28. Fast forward, we literally got married at 28. Not that
Love
we had
that.
any of, like, we could not have planned that.
Yeah.
It literally was not a plan. It just happened. But I know it happened because I didn't care when it
Yeah.
happened. And I think a lot of people need to like really take that pressure off of themselves. And this not even just with like a specific person, any manifestation, whether it's
Yeah.
money, weight, whatever. You really need to take that time period off because you're having it. And I love when you say
Yeah.
that you're like, I'm having this. This is mine. So if it's already yours, it's done. You don't, what's the
Yeah.
point of caring about when it comes? It's done.
You have to see it as inevitable. It's
Mhm.
like me with my TikTok now, I'm manifesting like the next number goal. I'm like, you know what? This is how I used to feel about 10K followers. It's the same thing. It's inevitable. Now that I've done that, it's like it's inevitable. And any money goal, okay, well, if I've done this, it's inevitable. So, with that situation, if you've not manifested anything with them yet, like it's kind of harder to see. But
Yeah.
you have to see it as you have to find a way to see it as inevitable, even if that's. And I did a TikTok on this earlier actually. If
Oh,
someone
good. I
else
can't wait to
manifests
watch.
it, if someone else can manifest it, you can have it. Even if that's
Mhm.
the one thing that you use to convince your mind that it's inevitable. If Jasmine can do it, I can do it. Like it's inevitable.
Mhm.
It's inevitable. It's inevitable. It's inevitable. Like you have to just wrap your mind around like if I program my mind and I do the right things and I like, for example, if you were manifesting money, if I am programming I'm going to be $1 million and I'm taking the right action, sorry, I'm going to have $1 million. And I'm, wrapping myself up in this wealth mindset. I'm identifying as that. I'm creating a business that matches that and provide value to the world. It's inevitable. Like,
Mhm.
which sounds like a big statement. I understand anyone listening is going to be like, whoa, are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. Like, just see it as inevitable.
Yeah. So what would you say? Because I actually with my She's Worthy platform, like everything for me is like more passive. And there are some people, because I kind of did a rebrand, restructure just like you
Yeah.
did. Like what would you say to someone who is like in that new phase and they're like waiting for things to pick up, waiting for like what would you say to either encourage them or even from a business perspective, what would you recommend?
I would always recommend being honest about where your focus is going and your manifestation and your mindset routine. Are
Mhm.
you winging it? Are you putting out stuff all the time and putting out courses, putting out social media stuff, and then just sitting there hoping somebody comes in and somebody buys it? Or are you programming into your mind every single day? People love to buy me. My energy is God-given. My products are so valuable. Are you operating from those three beliefs? I'm an
Yeah.
expert in what I do. I'm the best there is. Or are you sitting there hoping somebody comes and chooses you? Like you have to be honest where your focus is going. Because a lot of the times I think we think doing a money meditation on a Monday night and then posting a few things, we think that's going to be what it is. And it's not, it's that daily commitment to this new mindset,
Mhm.
this new lifestyle, this new person, because it is a new person. Like the person I was this time last year in business, not the same person as me today. She had a different money threshold, she had different
Yeah.
goals, she had a different business structure, if I'm honest. It was like a lot of one-on-one stuff going on, one workshop. Now it's mainly my membership and the 2 week self-concept challenge. And that's where I want to put my focus. And I will always follow the fun of what I'm passionate about. I'm not one of those people that can sell ice to an Eskimo and just do something because it's hot at the minute. I am like, no, I have to sell something I believe in and that I'm
Right.
really loving and feeling fun. So yeah, so it's about checking in with yourself. It's that self-awareness on your business and you. And if you're feeling stagnant, you have to just be totally honest with where your focus is going.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because I think a lot of people like expect overnight results, and not saying it can't happen, right?
Yeah.
It can totally happen, but it's also a process. And I love that you used like doing things daily and the
Yeah.
consistency. And I think a lot of people get hung up on like not being consistent in those areas, and they're expecting all of this, and then they look up and they're like, whoa, why hasn't this happened? I'm gonna give up, I quit, blah blah blah. But you have to ask yourself, have I really been consistent? And I know I can tell you and I are always like on the same wavelength about things at
Yeah.
the same time. You said, I think this was earlier, either this week or last week, but 6 months. You were like, give 6 months time. And I have been talking about this as well on the podcast, because what I know astrologically is you have the new moon, you have the full moon. That's a 6 month time window. If you set intentions on the new moon, you work with those, and then the full moon comes 6 months later, you're going to manifest those things.
Yeah.
Now, would you share like a brief overview of what you were giving information on, like on that TikTok video, about taking that 6 months, what it looks like, and how we can bring things into our reality?
Yeah. So I live somewhere in the middle of it can happen today and give yourself 6 months. And the reason
Yeah.
why I do that is because I don't want anybody to think, their manifestation is 3 years away. I don't want you to live thinking it's going to have to take ages. But at the same
Yeah.
time, we live in a culture that doesn't like work. Like it just, I mean, I don't know if it's TikTok, I don't know if it's the pandemic, but everything's instant now. Everything is like, even a lot of accounts, they blow up because they did a stupid dance, or like the Hop Tour girl, she did a 15-second clip, she's quit a job and she's moved to Hollywood. I don't know. Like we
Yeah.
just live in a culture now that really celebrates those overnight successes. But I mean, people congratulate me on my TikTok now, and I'm like, babes, I've been doing this for 8 years. I mean, I might have started the TikTok 2 years ago, but I've been doing this and trying to promote online for 8 years. I just figured it out 2 years ago. There's a big difference.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not saying it has to take anybody 8 years before you all get really worried, but give yourself the time, because everything has its the day you plant the seed and the day you pick the fruit. And they're never the same day,
Yeah.
ever. And so I love the idea of like, I can change how I'm thinking and feeling in the next 2 weeks. But the thing with the 2 week challenge that I set everybody is that you have to keep doing it.
Yeah.
Get in it. You have to create that consistency, because consistency creates confidence, and you'll
hmm
start to see these things manifest. You'll be like, oh my God, if I carry on, what else will I manifest? If I keep on telling
Yeah.
myself, one of the best things I started affirming was, I deserve the effing world, and that's what I'm going to get. And I started seeing things manifest, and I was like, oh, hold on. Like, what else could I manifest with this affirmation? And I manifested loads. So it's give yourself enough time to let it marinate, because you haven't become this version of you in the past like 10 days. Like you become this version of you like in the past 20, 30, 40, however many years. And so give yourself enough time to become this new version, and
hmm
to it's like the butterfly in the cocoon. Give yourself enough time to become the butterfly. Like it doesn't have to happen tomorrow. And I think the more we do self-concept work, the more we validate ourselves, the less we need for it to happen tomorrow. Like
Yeah.
when you have a good self-concept, you want the money, you want the person, you want it to validate you because you feel like shit about yourself right now. And
Hmm.
so using those things as just things to fill a void. Whereas
Yeah.
when you work with self-concept and you start building that, you don't need them as much, and therefore they actually manifesting faster, which is the crazy part.
Yeah. And I've seen that like in my own life. Like whenever I'm really, really focused on myself, I just see things like pop up. Like if I'm thinking about something like, oh, I want a cup of tea. And then like my husband will bring it to me. Like just
Yeah, I love that.
random
I do that
things.
all the time.
Yeah, it just comes in and there's no like resistance. And
Mhm.
so I don't know if you can like kind of talk about that with like resistance that a lot of people have with their manifestations. I know you mentioned like limiting beliefs, but what would you recommend to like help us clear resistance towards like the goals and the things that we really desire? And I know you go deeper like into that with the self-concept challenge, but if there was like maybe one thing that you might share or recommend people do, we would love to hear it.
No, I'll give you like the main thing I tell people to do. So with self-concept, I think we think it's about just saying, okay, what do I want? I mean, this is what I teach as well, but like it's part of it. So what do I want? Okay, what would she believe about herself if she already had it? She'd believe she's good enough, she's this, she's that. Okay, that's cool. The real sweet spot is to ask yourself, what am I insecure about? What do I actually believe about myself right now that's negative? When you work on turning those around, you become invincible. You become so unfuckwittable.
Mm,
You become a superhuman because nobody can trigger your insecurities if you're working on them or if you've worked on them, let's say. And so
yeah.
if I've got this deep, so for example, I had a fear of being seen. So obviously that's going to keep me at like a low amount of followers. And I want to grow this business and I want to grow my income. This fear of being seen. If I just start affirming, I have 100K followers, I have 100K followers, my brain, if I'm scared of it, it's going to go, no, you don't. We don't want that.
Right.
When you work on, okay, actually, I've got this fear of being seen. Okay, how can I rewire that? Okay, well, how can I see this differently? Well, actually, being seen is a good thing because I'm helping people change their lives. Well, actually, it's not that deep to be seen. Everybody's seen now. Everybody's got an online account. You know, loads of people have loads of followers. It's fine. It's not that deep. That's another big like catchphrase of mine. It's not that deep. We make
Yeah.
it mountainous in our heads. It's just head drama. It's not that deep. If you were trying to manifest in money, and again, you've got this fear or this limiting belief around money creates problems in relationships because
Mm,
maybe your mom and dad growing up getting divorced over money or arguing from the divorce settlements or struggling to put food on the table and they're arguing every night. You've associated money with pain. Your brain
mhm.
doesn't want that. Your subconscious mind doesn't want that. So when we work on that limiting belief, you are letting all of the new money come in. When we work on the belief of, money causes pain in relationships, you're not going to want to ruin your relationships.
Right.
So you have to work on that stuff. Those are the stuff that's hardest to work on because nobody
Mhm.
likes to take a look at their insecurities. Nobody likes to open Pandora's box and go, oh, how shit can I feel about myself today? It's not one of those exercises. It's an exercise to set you free. Like, honestly, this stuff can set you free because
Mm,
when you rewire these thoughts and when you change your perspectives on them, give yourself a whole new life. Imagine who you would be if you weren't holding on to these negative stories about yourself.
mhm. Yeah.
Imagine the life you would have if you weren't holding on so tightly to all these stories that have come from your childhood or your teenage years or past relationships. It's so liberating.
It is. It absolutely is because this was, I think, March is when I really decided, okay, I really want to like get back into my platform, like which she's worthy. And I had a fear because when you said being seen, I had a fear about being seen. And that fear was more so on Facebook. I don't know if we had this conversation or not, but my Facebook is filled.
Maybe.
Maybe so. Okay. My Facebook is filled with like a lot of people that like
We
knew
do.
me
We
growing.
did.
Yeah, yeah. That knew
Yeah.
me growing up. And I was afraid to tell, like, I was very afraid to be honest about my material success.
Yeah.
I didn't want people to see me differently or, think that I was bragging, but now I don't care. I'm
No.
very clear. And the reason why I share that success is because I want other people to see what's
Yeah,
possible, you
exactly.
know?
You're doing a
And
service to the world.
Yes, absolutely. And so when we think about our insecurities, like that opens up another level for us. Like if I would not have done that, we would not be on this radio show because how the heck would they have my agent have found me?
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
Exactly. And I think as well, we're so worried about other people, other people, other people. A lot of the times, our limiting beliefs and our insecurities, they haven't even come from us. Like they haven't
Yeah,
even
it's
come. It's not even
society or
us.
childhood.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's somebody else's, like being told, oh, you have to work really hard for money. And don't get me wrong, you have to work hard in life. You have to put effort in. But if working hard was the only way we got money, there'd be so many countries that would be out of the debt they're in, and there'd be, millionaires all over the place because there's so many people in the world that work hard. The
Absolutely.
mindset is what really elevates you and creates that difference. And so, like, we worry so much about other people. Like, we have to learn to just drop their bullshit, drop our own bullshit, and step into that power where we're not holding on to all these stories anymore.
Absolutely. It's game changing. It's so game
Yeah.
changing.
And it
I
makes manifestation loads easy because when we work on these, I always call them like the nitty gritty stuff that no one wants to work on. When you work on that, you don't have to sit there doing TikTok challenges or TikTok, meditations, or which I promote and I do on my channel, and I do like a visualization with you, and I'll do like
yeah.
how to manifest in 7 days. But the thing is, sometimes you get in a trap of just trying to do those kind of stuff all the time. So you'll do a 10-minute manifestation meditation, or you'll do, oh, let me just script this out so it can manifest next week. I do less techniques now more than ever before, just from
Mm,
doing my affirmation work, listening to them in the car, listening to it while I sleep. I don't feel
yeah.
like I can do anything really to manifest. It just happens now. You take away all that kind of having to sit down and manifest kind of stuff. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I think one reason for that is because you put in the work. Like over time, I know years, of course, because you started on this journey, but like it just becomes natural. Like it's
Yeah.
not something you have to force. But a lot of people, what I've noticed is they want that quick manifestation. So they're
Yeah.
not putting in that work, with the self-concept to be able to get where you are.
Yeah. Well, self-concept is what makes it really fast.
Hmm.
I did a 10-minute visualization last night off YouTube, and I was on there thinking, oh my God, this is going to manifest so fast now because I've put in the work with all the belief work. Like, this is going to be easy to manifest. Whereas
Yeah.
even 2 years ago, 3 years ago, that I would have done that visualization, and I would have come out of it going, oh, but when's it going to happen? Is that going to happen?
Mm,
I'm going to have to repeat this every night in order for this to happen.
yeah. Yeah. And I realize too, like when we are caught up on time, it's almost like an insecurity of like
Yeah,
trust
it is.
and faith in God. I think that's where it really kind of like comes from when we're hung up on that.
It is. There's a quote which says, God's not in a rush, you are.
Yeah.
Course in Miracles says, those who are certain of the outcome can afford to wait and wait
Wait,
without
without
anxiety.
anxiety.
My favorite
I'll
quote.
never forget that quote. I will never forget when you
So
shared that
good.
quote with me. Yeah.
So true. Those who are
Hmm.
certain of the outcome, you're not sitting there panicking. It's like if you booked a holiday for December, I'm not going to sit there every day wondering whether it's going to get cancelled or not, or if I'm going. I know I've booked it. I know I'm going. I'm going to enjoy my life until it gets to January.
Yeah.
Did I say December or January? I can't remember. But until I get to that vacation, I just trust that I know it's coming. I've booked it. I've decided I'm going away.
It's done.
Yeah, it's done.
I love that. I love that. And now as we're kind of like honing in on that, I want to know like what would you say is the secret sauce to like building your business in terms of attracting customers? Obviously the self concept, but I guess what about it would you say that you did? Because Lyd, you weren't working in the coaching business for a little bit of time, like online, right? You were doing it like behind the scenes, and then now you're like in front of the scenes,
Yeah.
and you have had so much success. Like, what would you say helped really attract those clients and building the business the way you want it to be?
Being yourself. You have to be yourself.
Hmm.
Even 8 years ago when I started, I had a coach that I'd hired, and she asked me I mean, I think it was because I used to turn up to our coaching sessions in my tracksuit and my hoop earrings, and then she'd watch my online videos and she'd be like, they're not correlating, like you're not being yourself. And I was like, yeah, nobody's going to listen to me if I'm sitting there in my tracksuit. And she was like, they will, the right people will, your people will. And so
Mm-hmm.
she changed my game, because before that I was turning up like, hello, my name is Lydia and I'm a mindset coach. And I was like trying to be really nice and articulate and not swearing, which is so hard for me. Like it's so hard for me to sit there and filter myself. On TikTok, especially, I feel like there is so much free reign to be yourself. It's such a nice platform. It is such
Yeah.
a lovely platform to just be your goofy ass little self and to just say some manifestation stuff alongside it. So I think being yourself is the most attractive thing because it's magnetic and people can see when you're not being yourself as well. Even if they can't put their finger on it, they can sense it. So the more
Yeah.
you can create your business around your personal brand, the better, I think. Obviously, everybody's different and everybody's going to have a different way to approach it. But I personally think being yourself is your biggest marketing tool. You are your biggest marketing tool. People buy from
Mm-hmm.
people. We're all, there are 50 other creators selling self-concept stuff or doing self-concept TikToks or YouTubes. You're going to listen to mine because of the way I deliver it. And some people will hate that. I get comments telling me to slow down when I speak. I can't. I've tried. And
Yeah.
they're not this, our styles don't match. That's fine. You can send someone away with love, or someone can scroll away from you. It's fine. It's having that thick skin enough to say, not everybody's going to be for me, and I'm not going to be for everybody. But the
Mm-hmm.
right people are going to absolutely love me. And that is also how you build better communities online as well.
Yes, I really love that you said that. Like, because I feel like the more that I have been myself, like in my platforms, like I have a different type of client because
Mhm.
of that. And like, they're my dream, clients that work with me. They have that aura, that persona. But if you're not being yourself, you're not going to get that because
No,
you're going to get what you are trying to be, and you're not going to love it.
no, you're going to resent it. It's
Mm-hmm.
not going to be fun. Like I'm
No,
unfortunate, I attract in the best clients, like the best. I mean, look at us 7 years in.
I know,
Like, even
right?
if we're not actively working together, we are constantly checking in with each other, like, oh, how's it going? Like, what you been up to? Or like, commenting on each other's things. That's 7 years later because, we both came in as ourselves in that
Mm-hmm.
like agreement, in that space. And when you allow someone to be their self as well, it's such a powerful, powerful thing. So that is my biggest for building any business. Like if you have a product-based service, make sure it's the best product on the planet. But if it's you and you are the brand, then it's so important to be yourself because nobody's going to do it like you're doing it. And it's
Yeah,
so hard as well. It's so hard to create a brand and then have to show up as somebody else every day. You are not Brad Pitt. You are not a paid actor. Like you have to show up as yourself, otherwise it's going to drain you.
absolutely. And I think that's going to be like people's success when they start to be authentic to themselves, not trying to create this like perfect picture. And
Yeah.
I know like when I first started like with my business, as I mentioned, like I was so afraid of people, what they may say, because I come from a very professional space. But then when I'm in this space, I'm able to like because I feel
Yeah.
like for me in the coaching industry, you get to have that room to like be that and do that. And that's what I think is beautiful about the coaching industry is that authenticity. And more people are starting to like do that. And it doesn't feel like, fake or anything like that. So it
Yeah.
feels good to be able to have that. And I just want to kind of like leave off as we like wrap things up.
Mhm.
How can people stay in tune with you? Where can they go? How can they get into the self-concept challenge? What do you have going on?
So if you go to my TikTok, which is the 444 agency, you will find like the link in my bio that has my podcast. It has everything. That's the easiest way I can just branch everything off. It has how to get onto the 2 week self-concept challenge. It has, the latest YouTube I've put up. My YouTube, I think, is Lydia Killion. This is something I'm working on. I need to tie up all my I need to tie up all my
Yeah.
socials that match. But you can search the 444 agency as well on YouTube and I will come up. And then on Instagram, it's the 444 agency.lydia,
Got
because
it.
I had reserved the 444 agency and then it locked me out and it never let me back in, which was so annoying. So they did match up, but no, it's got dot Lydia on the end. So
Good.
yeah, so they're all my platforms. And then on Spotify, if you search for Get an Effing Life, Babe, I'll come up there, or Lydia Killion.
Perfect, perfect. You guys make sure that you like go check out everything that she has. Like as she mentioned, we've had a relationship for years and I'm probably going to sign up for something else soon. So, thank you so much for being here with us. We are so grateful just to be able to like see this in action cuz it's I think for me for all of like the listeners they see me and I am able to share someone who has been on the journey of
Yeah, so
transition.
exciting.
Yes. And so that is really good to have. So, I appreciate it so much.
So welcome. I've loved being here. Obviously, it was an absolute big fat yes as soon as you asked me, because it's such a beautiful full circle moment as well.
It is. It
Like,
really
we got through
is.
the pandemic, we got through everything else. You've manifested everything you wanted to manifest. I've manifested what I wanted to manifest. It is so cute to be here like 7 years later, go into the next stages of our business together. I love it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, everyone. Be sure to check in with all of Lydia's socials, and I will have those in the show notes. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening, and
Thank
stay tuned for
you.
the next episode.